Last week, we ended with a meditation exercise where we just read some scriptures with our meditation album underneath it. And you might recall that the part of the album we played was from the afternoon when everything was hustle and bustle and busy. This part of the album comes from the evening meditations. And we just want to give you some space to think about thinking about God. And while we listen to this music from the evening of the album, we're going to read how Jesus is just pulled away from people. Sometimes it was in the morning, sometimes it was in the evening. But I just want to read those scriptures and let you consider how God might be calling you to come away with him by yourself. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. But now, even more, the report about him went abroad, and great crowds gathered to hear him and to be healed of their infirmities. But he would withdraw to desolate places and pray. In these days, he went out to the mountain to pray, and all night he continued in prayer to God. Jesus went out, as usual, to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And he said to them, come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while. For many are coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as lightning. If Jesus needed solitude, don't you think you do too? Without solitude, it is virtually impossible to live a spiritual life. Ashley mentioned that the reason most of us don't have time for solitude is because we don't have a system for solitude. So I want to take what he said this weekend and just walk you through the 4 essential elements of solitude, which is an essential element for our spiritual growth. Number 1, you need a time. Choose the same time every day. Number 2, a place. Sit in the same chair, the same spot, the same position every day. 3, you need a plan. If you have a plan, then keep doing what you're doing. But if you don't have a plan, we're going to show you one right now. And then end in prayer. Not just you talking to God, but a time of quiet where you listen to God speak to your spirit. We're going to implement this right now as part of your group. It's going to be very, very practical. For those of you who have been doing it for years, share your wisdom with others. For those who have never done it before, look, no guilt, no shame. This is not like one-upsmanship of I'm better than you. It's us trying to get better together. So go around the room and share your time and place that you meet with God. It's okay to say, I don't have one, or this is what I'm planning on doing, but share with the others right now. So I want to ask you as a group to just implement a reading right now. We're going to read Mark chapter 1, since at the end it says he peeled off by himself to get some time alone with God. So Mark chapter 1, just go around the room. Everyone can read 1 or 2 verses. I want you to read the whole chapter. And as you do, I hope you have a pen, piece of paper. If not, just pull out your phone. And I want you to begin to write down some things that you observe. Have each person share one verse that they think they need to put into practice. Now, there's some verses that are just going to mean something to you, comfort you, encourage you, but we should always be on the lookout for one verse to put into practice. So to summarize, you should write down one verse you want to put into practice, anything that strikes you as interesting, odd, entertaining, any questions that you have, and maybe if you really sense the Lord speaking to you, what is it that the Lord's saying to you? Let's take some time to read Mark 1. Okay, here's our next question. As you went around the room and shared what verse really you thought you need to put in practice, what did you learn about yourself and what did you learn about others in the group? Now here's my guess before you break away and answer. As someone says, well, this is the verse I got. Some of you are going to go, wow, I didn't even see that. See, that's why we need each other. Some of you are going to say, wow, that was really insightful. Some of you are going to have some questions that another person can answer. As you shared around the circle, here's the verse I feel like God's telling me to put into practice, or here's some questions that I have, or maybe here's something that God said to me through this text. I want to ask that you share around the circle what you learn from sharing around the circle. Specifically, what did you learn about yourself and about others in the group from this experience? Maybe it is that, wow, that person really has insightful questions. Or maybe for you it is, I thought this was the only verse I need to put in practice, but now I see others talking, like I see what others are seeing. I'm seeing through others' eyes. What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about others through this experience? Here's a question about your questions. What questions did you have about the text? Don't answer the questions. This is not the time to answer the questions. I want you to coach each other of how to answer the questions that you have about the text. So go around the room right now, share maybe one question each of you had. What does this mean? Or what is he saying? And then instead of trying to answer the question, this is going to be hard. Don't answer the question. But answer this question, how do you answer that kind of a question? Share some ideas of how a person could find answers to the questions they have. Finally, you want to take some time to pray. Now, we're going to do that right now. I want to give you a simple exercise. If you've been around CCV, you've heard this before, ACTS, A-C-T-S. It's not the only way to pray, but it is a clear model. Kind of think of it as a starter kit to make sure that your communication is wide open with God. A stands for adoration. Just praise God. Tell him who he is and what he's done. C, confession. And maybe this week would be a good week for you to confess as a group that you need to spend more time with God, that you need to break away from the hustle and bustle so that you really give him priority of your thought and heart. T is thanksgiving. Just list the things that you're grateful for. And S, big word, supplication, simply means asking God for stuff. I'll close with this. I'm coaching an NBA shooting coach right now. And he has not had spiritual disciplines in his life. And one of the questions he said was, how do I even pray? I gave him this exact same thing, like supplication. He goes, what is that supplication thing? Is it just asking for what I want? No. Think of it as a military general sends out his leaders. And he says, I want you to go into the battlefield. And then the leaders say, okay, we need some artillery. We need some air cover. We need some comms. We need some body armor. What would you ask God for if he sent you to do battle for him? That is the best supplication there is. So as a group right now, pray to God, adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. And take some time, make some space to listen.